So the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's kind of at a crossroads right now. The next huge event, Avengers Doomsday, is right around the corner. But honestly, so are a lot of questions. We've got recent plot leaks, we've got exclusive trailer footage, and it's all painting a picture of a movie that could either be this incredible new chapter for the MCU, or maybe a sign that they're running out of steam. Today, we are going to break down the rumored story and that first trailer to try and answer the big question. Is the multiverse the future for Marvel, or is it just a gimmick that's starting to get a little old? Let's dive in.
This quote, you've probably seen it floating around online, it just perfectly captures what everyone's worried about. This whole idea that the plan for Avengers Doomsday is just throwing a bunch of random action figures together. And you know what I'm talking about, we've all done it, you grab your favorite toys, doesn't matter what universe they're from, and you just smash them together. It's fun, for sure, but there's no real story, there are no real stakes. And the fear is that the MCU, by yanking heroes from every corner of the multiverse, is basically doing the exact same thing, just on a billion-dollar scale, and then asking us to care about it as much as we cared about the stories they spent a decade building.
And that whole action figure approach, well, it leads us right here, to maybe the biggest threat the multiverse poses. It messes with the idea of consequences. I mean, think back to the gut punch of Endgame. We all watched Tony Stark sacrifice himself. We saw Steve Rogers finally get that dance and live a full life. Those moments hit so hard because they felt final. Death meant something. Retirement meant something. But if a basically identical version of a character can just pop through a portal from another reality, does that sacrifice still matter as much? Does that perfect ending still have the same power? The risk here is that the multiverse turns these permanent, powerful moments into, well, just temporary problems.
Okay, so with that big problem hanging over everything, let's start digging into the actual evidence. We're kicking things off with Section 1, a deep dive into the rumored plot for Doomsday.
So what's the actual story that's supposed to bring all these different heroes into the same movie? Well, based on some pretty detailed leaks that have surfaced, the plot for Doomsday is absolutely massive. It's set to bring one of Marvel's all-time greatest villains to the big screen, but as we're about to see, the way the story is structured, it might feel just a little bit familiar.
All right, let's break this down piece by piece, because this is supposedly the entire foundation for the next two Avengers movies. First up, The Hunt. We've got Dr. Doom, one of the smartest and most powerful villains ever, and he's hopping across different realities. But he's not just conquering them, he's on a cosmic MacGuffin hunt. You know, a MacGuffin is just a term for an object that drives the plot. Think the Infinity Stones. So next up, The Alliance. Of course, Doom's little multiverse road trip gets noticed. Heroes from all over, we're talking X-Men, Fantastic Four, different Spider-Man, our MCU crew, they all team up to try and stop him. But then we get to the most stunning part of the leak. Step 3, the defeat. In a move that sounds a lot like Infinity War, the heroes fail, they lose. And that leads directly to the big finale, the New World. Doom wins, and he uses all that power he's collected to collapse the multiverse into one single reality, Battleworld. It's this patchwork planet made from bits and pieces of other universes, and he's ruling it all as king. It's a seriously dark ending, and it's meant to set up the next film, Secret Wars.
Now, a story that huge sounds amazing on paper, right? But here's the catch. It comes with a massive practical problem. Just think about it for a second. The movie has to stop and explain to the audience why Hugh Jackman's Wolverine is suddenly sharing the screen with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. You've got to explain the history of the Fox X-Men universe, the Sony Spider-Verse, maybe even those old Fantastic Four movies, and you have to do all of that while trying to tell a new story. That is a ton of explanation, what we call exposition. And the big worry is that Doomsday could get so bogged down in explaining how everybody is there that it completely forgets to give us a good reason to care that they're there. You know, all the great character moments could get totally lost in a sea of backstory.
Okay, so the plot leaks are one thing, but we also have some real, concrete details from that exclusive trailer they showed at Cinecon. So let's move into our second section, breaking down the trailer.
So the trailer apparently kicks off with the man himself, Dr. Doom. Iconic metal mask, green hood, the whole shebang, as he gets ready to invade. Then, bam, we cut to the X-Mansion, and Patrick Stewart's Professor X senses something terrible is coming. And from there, it is just a non-stop barrage of fan service moments. We apparently see Channing Tatum's Gambit finally fighting Shang-Chi. We see Rebecca Romijn's original Mystique, who then morphs into Yelena Belova, which leads to this wild image of Florence Pugh fighting herself. It all builds to this huge showdown, Thor versus Dr. Doom. It's literally like they just dumped the entire toy box out on the floor just to see what kind of crazy matchups they could create.
Okay,
But during that Thor vs. Doom fight, something supposedly happens that kind of breaks a huge rule in the MCU. Doom allegedly catches Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, with his bare hands. For more than a decade, being able to lift that hammer was the ultimate test of worthiness. It was only for a select few. Thor, of course, Vision, and in maybe the greatest moment in movie history, Steve Rogers in Endgame. And that moment worked because it was an emotional payoff that they built for years. It proved everything we already knew about Cap's character. So by letting Doctor Doom just stop it in its tracks, it really risks making that special moment feel less special. It's just another case of bending the old rules to create a cool visual.
But the biggest, most controversial moment of the whole trailer is reportedly the return of Chris Evans as Captain America. And this quote from a fan just perfectly captures how a lot of people are feeling. Steve Rogers' ending in Endgame wasn't just a goodbye, it was perfect. He fought his fight, he earned his rest, he got to live a full life with Peggy. It was a beautiful, definitive end to his story. So bringing him back, even if it's a version from another universe, feels like it's cheapening that perfect farewell. The trailer apparently shows him popping up, shield in hand, even lifting Mjolnir again. But the question everyone's asking is why? Is his return actually necessary for the story, or is this just Marvel cashing in on our nostalgia, even if it messes with one of their best character arcs?
So when you lay out the rumored plot and the trailer details, a pretty clear pattern starts to show up. And that pattern has led to a huge criticism, that for all its new faces, this multiverse story might just be a story we've already seen. So let's explore that in Section 3. Is this just an Infinity War retread? I mean, this is really the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Is this story, a bad guy hopping around collecting powerful items so he can reshape reality, is it truly original? Or is Marvel just running back one of its greatest hits? To figure that out, let's just put Doomsday and Infinity War right next to each other.
When you actually lay it out like this, the similarities are, they're impossible to ignore. Let's just go down the list. Villain's goal. In Infinity War, Thanos is hunting the Infinity Stones. In Doomsday, Doctor Doom is hunting multiverse MacGuffins. Same goal, collect the shiny things. Plot structure. In Infinity War, heroes from all over the galaxy team up to stop him. In Doomsday, they just widen the search a bit. Heroes from all over the multiverse team up. And then, the final outcome. In Infinity War, the heroes lose. The credits roll with Thanos victorious. The rumored ending for Doomsday, the exact same thing. The heroes lose, and the film ends with Doom sitting on his throne, victorious. It's the same skeleton, just with a different costume on.
And this is why the criticism isn't just that it feels similar, it feels like a copy. What made Infinity War so amazing was that it was the payoff for 10 years of storytelling. We'd been seeing Thanos teased since the very first Avengers movie. His arrival felt earned, it felt inevitable. Doomsday, on the other hand, seems to be trying to speedrun that exact same story, but with a way messier premise and a villain we haven't spent years getting to know in the MCU. So the conclusion many are drawing is that this is shaping up to be a retread of a story we've already seen, and it probably won't hit with the same kind of impact.
So, all of this brings us to our last and biggest question. We need to zoom out from just this one movie and look at the entire strategy it's a part of. This takes us to Section 4, the multiverse gimmick. Is this a brilliant new creative tool, or is it just a narrative crutch? So, the argument here is that the MCU's multiverse isn't really a story, it's a gimmick. And a gimmick is basically a plot device you turn to when you've run out of other ideas. The thinking goes something like this. After over a decade, the stories of the main Avengers, Iron Man, Captain America, they're pretty much done. So with that original well of ideas starting to run dry, the multiverse was brought in as a super easy way to create something new and exciting without having to build these new stories from the ground up. And when you start looking for it, you can see this gimmick in action all over the place. It's the tool that lets writers just magically undo a perfect character ending, like what they did with Steve Rogers. It's what lets them smash together totally separate franchises, like the X-Men and the MCU, whether it really makes sense or not. It means the old rules of the universe, like who can lift Thor's hammer, can just be bent or broken for one cool moment. It's the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card for writers, but the price you pay is that the story's emotional weight and logic gets sacrificed for the cheap thrill of a crossover. This quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It's all style over substance. The focus seems to have completely shifted. The Infinity Saga was all about character. It was this carefully built, decade-long story about a group of heroes on a collision course with one single villain. This new saga, though, it feels like it's all about the spectacle. The main attraction is just the novelty of seeing who's going to show up next. The story, it seems, now just exists to make the crossovers happen instead of the other way around.
And here's the thing, this strategy has a real-world effect. What happens when you prioritize style over substance? Well, according to this analysis, you get audience burnout. Even with all the massive, crazy reveals in that Doomsday trailer, the hype online just feels quiet. The buzz isn't really there. In a lot of fan communities, you're seeing less pure excitement and more this kind of cautious apathy, almost an exhaustion. And that's a big sign that audiences might be getting tired of the multiverse trick and are really just hungry for the kind of strong, character-first stories that made them love the MCU to begin with.
And so this is where we land, with the one central question that's going to define the future of not just the MCU, but maybe the whole superhero genre. Is the multiverse a last resort, a gimmick to prop up a franchise that's out of ideas? Or is it a necessary evolution, a bold new way to keep these stories fresh and exciting after all this time? Honestly, we don't have the answer yet, but you can bet that the box office and the fan reaction to Avengers Doomsday will give us a pretty clear one. Thanks for watching The Explainer.